Yo, guys, what's going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is here today. Still recovering. Let me make that clear. I just finished reading this chapter not that long ago, and I'm still trying to process this because, man, where- I guess I should start with the cover page. Let's just jump right in, okay? Chapter 291, okay? And you've got the perfect cover page, I should say, with Shiki and Witch, aka mother and son, and you got Pino in the background too. Oh my god! And as you can see, the two of them say two, which, again, if we look at the message that we've been seeing thus far with Eden Zero, like since chapter 288, pretty sure it was 288, right? Yeah, should be. Let's look over here. Okay, so 288, we have Rebecca and Ivory. Rebecca's the one who's just saying the letter A. And then, of course, you got Weiss and Hermit, Re, and then you got Hamura and Valkyrie, Ga, and then, of course, go into this. 291 is To, so Arigato. Which is the message I've kind of been predicting, not just me, but like a lot of other people too in the Eden Zero fandom have been like, okay, you get Ari, and it's like, okay, so if we're going by that, Ga and To. Which means, you look at it like that, it's like, okay, that usually just means thank you or like, you know, farewell. As usually what it means. Well, no, I think farewell would be like sayonara, but let's see here. So chapter title's called 291. And boy, listen, end of last chapter. You want to talk about like mad feels? End of last chapter, and the chapter as a whole, like 290, like we got answers, but man, did those answers like hit with feels. This chapter is no different, by the way. Not necessarily in the answers department, more so in the feels department. Because end of last chapter, Shiki was reaching out to Rebecca, reminding her of like, adventure, like, about, their bond. And, Rebecca looks over. And like that's where we left off last chapter. In this chapter, we just immediately continue on from that. So Shiki's reaching out his hand, and Rebecca's like, Shiki? And the chronophage is resisting, like, stop it. This body's mine. I finally found it. I won't let anyone else have it. It's my lost time. To which we see Ziggy, Pino, and Happy. And Pino's like, is that gravity? Is what Ziggy says. And then he continues to say, he's using gravity to force the chronophage out of Rebecca, for Shiki. And then Happy's like, obviously worried, super concerned about Rebecca. I'm supposed to be your friend, but I couldn't figure it out. You see the reaction from Rebecca, like just in shock and everything. And he says, "I want to help. I want you to remember your friends, all the adventures we went on, the path we walked together. That's the bond that we share." And listen, Hero, you can't keep doing this to me. Oh my god. Like, do you see like these montage of panels we're getting over here? Like of everything? Like just look at this. Like the first time she met Shiki to like when she met her mom, like on the bike, you know, remembering what Labelia did to her in Sunjul. Like there's so much. Like her using cat lever for the first, her crying over. Okay, her using. Let me let me say this without like just gargling up a lot of stuff. Her using Cat Leaper for the very first time. You had that. Her crying when Shiki died in Universe 1. The Ao Neko channel with her and Happy. The thing we kind of saw very early on in chapter 2? I think it was chapter 2, right? You know, the little card trick she used against oh my god. What was her name? She was in not Lindered. It was the Narrow 66 Circle. I'm gonna go back and remember. And I know the volume cover was 17. I got a pretty good idea as to who it is. Lyra. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, when she used it against Lyra. Um yeah, you got the time skip designs too. Oh my god. You get her remembering her encounter with Witch. And like, yeah, like there's so much. Like really, like when you sit down and like take this all in from perspective, it's like, wow. And you see her like swell up in tears, like saying, I'm again, Pino reaction, happy reaction, Ziggy. Shiki just smiling and like her just starting to tear up too, just saying, Rebecca. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a beautiful double page spread of like just Shiki like putting his arms around her. Like this is so sweet. Like that as the chronophage like is like starting to dissipate into nothing. And like the way how Hero like just drew this too. I mean, incredible. Super, super incredible. And like really, like, there's nothing left. Chronophage just disappears. Which was kind of something I said in the last stream. I didn't mention that when it came to the last chapter and going into this one. I did think for certain the Chronophage is gonna be like completely dealt with this chapter. And I was fine with that. I actually really was fine with that. And we're seeing that right now. And Pino points out that the chronophage ether has evaporated. Ziggy's like just kind of questioning, like, is it over? Happy's crying, Rebecca, Shiki. And then you just get like this long gaze from Rebecca. Just as she looks at him. And she's like, huh? Shiki? And you know, you see his like cheeky smile, like, yo. And then of course the funniest reactions of out of everything. Rebecca like realizes, wait, why aren't I wearing any clothes? And why are we floating? Not why are we, but are we floating in the middle of space? But Shiki still just goes on to say, like, let's go home, back to the Eden Zero. You know, and at first you have this reaction of like confusion and concern from Rebecca onto the next panel where she smiles and just says, yeah, where you get the shot of the Earth, you get the shot of the moon. Cut back over to the Eden's one. I said Eden's one. Oh my god. Cut back over to the Eden Zero. Got Hermit, Weiss, Laguna, Witch, Hamura, Valkyrie, Jin, Clean, Ivory, Moscow. Again, got Witch's reaction. They're all running up to Ziggy. Hat just, you know, smiling and all cheery. Got Rebecca and Shiki just like staring at one another. The thumbnail that I'm using for the video, honestly speaking, that thumbnail that y'all are seeing, that's not the one I was originally gonna go for. I was originally gonna go for the double page spread, but something about this one in particular just spoke to me. Like just them, just like looking at one another, like that spoke more to me than I think the other one did. And then just them holding hands, like that ain't just a best friends type of hold handing. That is like you and me together. Like we made it through this. You know, I'm yours, you're mine type of like hand holding. Like that is beautiful. Oh my god! Like and the way Hero's emphasizing it on that panel in particular. Like you see Weiss, Hermit, Ivory, Valkyrie. Like they're a little bit faded, and the big attention there is just on Shiki and Rebecca just holding hands, like very subtly implying that, like, yes, You and I, we're a thing. There's no stopping that now. And I'm perfectly fine with that. That's beautiful. Especially considering that they also just both like look at one another and you get just the eyes beaming and everything. I'm gonna just say it right now. Shika, in my opinion, one of the best modern shonen couples of this generation, without a doubt. Easily one of the best. Of course, got the reactions from Weiss, Hamura. Then you've got Hermit, Ziggy. Everyone's cheering. Right? Everyone's like super happy. They're like, "Yes, we did it. We stopped the Chronophage. We stopped the Eden's One. We stopped the Void. We stopped, the Dark Stars. Like everything's like happy, super duper happy." And in midst of all of this, Hero decides to pull this, and I was like, "Bro, are you for real right now?" Like, let me just explain. Pino's just off in the corner, and she decides to just rest against the wall, and goes on to say, "You all look so happy. It makes me happy too. I'm really glad. I really am glad I got to meet all of you. Thank you for everything. It appears that my role is finished. Goodbye, Master." And like that's it. Like the final shot is this. You get like Pino like just, back against the wall, looking like she's shutting down with a smile on her face. It's like, yeah, it appears that my role is finished. Goodbye, Master. And there's two ways to look at this. Because technically Hero hasn't done this, you know. No, well, no, let me rephrase that. It's not like Hero hasn't done this before with Pino. He's done this a couple times. More specifically in Linder. But I will say right now, it's like 50-50. There's a 50% chance Pino's like completely fine. And there's another chance Pino might actually be like gone. Which, if she is like indeed gone, man, like I'm not gonna lie. If this is like the send off for Pino, be deep. Be super, super deep. The big thing for me that carried this chapter, again, was Shiki Rebecca. That's the big thing. Big thing for me was just Shiki and Rebecca. Just him, just reaching out there, trying to get her come to her senses and everything. Like really they carry the chapter. Arguably you could say they're carrying this entire volume, if we're really looking at it. And I mean, okay, yeah, sure. Would I have liked to have seen like the explanation of where Shiki was? Kind of. Yeah, that is one thing I did kind of wonder. Like, all right, so where exactly did Shiki go? Which the bright side is there's still 2 chapters left, and we might get an explanation in the next chapter, or it could just be something the hero just kind of leaves us to our imagination. They could do one of those things too. But that's like the one little gripe of the chapter. It's not a big gripe. It's very very minuscule, like in the grand scheme of things. At least for me, it's a very very small thing in the grand scheme of things. And again, Pino's whole situation right now is like 50-50, without a shadow of a doubt. Again, it's beautiful just seeing like where everything's come. And I mean, if we're really looking at like the moments of everything Rebecca's remembering before she like become remembers like everything. Because let's see, she's got the outfit on, like the cat costume, which I'm pretty sure that's from. Oh my god, what was the Jack and Joe arc called? Shoot, I knew this at the Belial Goer. I'm pretty sure that's where that's from. Let's see. Yeah, we got Cat Leaper. Get the part where she like, pulled the card out, which was still really cool. Um, the embrace she had with Labilia at like the very beginning before you get the very beginning of the time skip, and then the one with Gills too, which that was still pretty messed. I'm glad. Here's the thing: people want to say Universe Zero has been primarily, oh, let's just reverse everything back to the way it was. Here's the thing: not every villain in Universe Zero has been like, let's reverse them back to good guys. I mean, Cure is still very much a scum. Aknoella was still, well, more or less the same. And then who's the one frog dude? The one who's like using them as statues. You had him also. I'm gonna look him up. Because since we're on the subject, and I do want to make that perfectly clear for people that are like, oh my god, we're redeeming all the good guys. No, we're not redeeming all of them. Not all the good guys. We're not redeeming all the villains. There have been villains within Universe Zero that have still very much remained the same. Make no mistake about that. I'm gonna remember this right now, just because, like, who was this guy? Okay, he's honestly super forgettable. Let me be perfectly clear about that. He is, but he was a part of Rogue Out. I know that. Is that what this guy is? Yeah, Allega. Yeah, yeah. Okay, again, this guy. I mean, look, obviously, he wasn't that great to begin with as a character, but again, characters like him just still remain the same. Okay, he's still who he was. Again, Cure still the same as who he was. Act Noah is still the same as who she was too. Not much difference on like those three. And again, the villains, like the big major villains we've encountered, like Draken Joe, Poseidon, Shura, those villains in particular. I mean, who else was there? Kurenai, their whole situation in Universe Zero, because that's what this whole story is about, right? It's about the different outcomes, the different like situations that occur within like each of the timelines. Like how you are in one universe doesn't really dictate how you are in another universe. That's really what it's all about, right? So when you look at it like that and really see what's there, the Draken Joe we encountered before is not the same Draken Joe we see now. Same thing with Kurina. The Kurina we see at this point in the story, not the same Kurina that we saw back in Sunjul. Same thing with Shira. Shira was a major asshole in, you know, the narrow 66 arc. Same thing with Poseidon. Poseidon had his own freaking agenda. Okay? Now cut to Universe Zero. They're not the same characters. Think of it very much like Thanos. Thanos Infinity War, Thanos Endgame. Okay? Two different Thanoses. Because now, okay, and I say different because the Thanos that the Avengers end up facing in Endgame is able to gain like the knowledge of what transpired beforehand. And that causes him to like alter his course and whatnot. So like theoretically it is like, well, it is still the same character. Yes, same character for sure. But the approach of the character is handled differently. And that's the same thing over here too. It's like, well, on the surface, appearance wise and everything, yeah, the characters are, you know, they do look the same. How they act though is a little bit differently. And that's the same way I want to approach this one too. And again, Universe Zero, I will say, has it been perfect? No. Obviously not. There have been some flaws here and there, okay? But I will say, from the Yukino Cosmos onwards, we've been like on some really good stuff, okay? And again, even within like this final arc, the One War arc, okay? Well, we've had a few like hiccups here and there, okay? The Homura, like they're having some good fights with Homura for sure. Some of her fights do kind of, go a little too fast, very easily. But listen, Hermit and Wise versus Killer, amazing. Witch versus Wizard, amazing for the most part. And then you got Shiki versus Void, super temporary, okay? And that was way before Ziggy showed back up too, okay? So even though it was like a brief instance of Shiki versus Void, when you look at the overall, spectrum of the story, you totally understand why Ziggy was the one to take on Void. Because Void was created by Ziggy. So in that instance, it's Ziggy's responsibility to deal with Void, right? And then, of course, we can't forget about Shiki versus Chronobeca. Easily, easily one of the best fights in this final arc, without a shadow of a doubt. And look, I'm gonna be the first to say it. Okay, so far, there's still 2 chapters left. Okay, we still got the penultimate chapter and the final chapter to go. But so far, this final arc of Eden Zero has been great. Not perfect, obviously not perfect, but it has been a great final arc. And I mean, the saga as a whole has just been great. It's not. It's to quote what a lot of the people in the fandom want to say. Oh my god, I cannot believe with where we are going. Like Hero has had this whole thing mapped out from the beginning, okay? And I have to bring this up every single stream. From volume 3, ever since that afterwards came out, Hero has said he knew the blueprint. He had the story beats of where he wanted Eden Zero to go. He knew the beginning, he knew the middle, he knew the end. The only thing that came about when it came to the structure of Fairy Tale was connecting the dots. That was the big thing. Okay? The Raise Master approach of Eden Zero are its story points. And connecting the dots is where you get the fairy tale elements to it. And like I said, Eden Zero, I will not say has been perfect, but easily, it's been one hell of a ride for sure. And listen, penultimate chapter is next week. And I don't know for sure if I'll be able to tackle the penultimate chapter like on the day of. There's a good chance I will. But on the off chance I won't be able to tackle that chapter, you know, exactly next week on this day, there's a chance I might have that on Wednesday of next week. I'm not sure yet. But listen, to bring this whole thing full circle with this particular chapter, okay, with my role, not my role, with the chapter title, okay, beautiful chapter, okay. A lot of it is, dealt with emotion, with feels. And when you look at it from that perspective, it does do so much. This chapter does do a lot. Just based on that alone, it does a lot. And like, what more can I say than that, guys? Really. And I guess I can end it off with this. What do I think is going to happen next chapter? Well, A, we are going to get a confirmation on Pino's fate. And like I said, so far, that's 50-50. Pino could either be still alive, which is entirely possible, or if Hero really wants to tug at the heartstrings, She is definitely gone. It's either one of those solutions. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way. I really wouldn't. And what I also feel like is going to happen with this chapter, this upcoming chapter we're going to get, the penultimate chapter of Eden Zero, chapter 292, we are going to get Ziggy's goodbye. Like the final goodbye. Because if you remember his fight with Void, he told Void, "You and I don't belong in this universe. We've long since served our purpose. This universe that we are in is not meant for us at all." So I feel like it's going to be very, very similar to say like the ending of Tartarus, right? Where you have the big farewell with all the dragons and the dragon slayers. You're going to get something along those lines. So everyone's happy, hunky dory right now that Ziggy's here. Next chapter, though, I'm gonna call it. Next chapter will be like Ziggy's true final send off, and that will definitely, I'm 100% certain, is gonna hit the field. Okay, because think of what Ziggy has done. Okay, since his return, what he's meant to all the shining stars, what he's meant to Shiki. Okay, this is gonna be a super, super like super, in my opinion, a super sad emotional moment for everyone on the crew. Not everyone, but at least the shining stars and for Shiki, for certain. And I definitely feel like with Rebecca knowing that this is a future Shiki, it is gonna hit her too in a massive way. Especially after finding out that the Chronophage was you know her future self. And who knows? I think the final chapter, not the final chapter. I think where this could end off at is a confirmation. You get like the full on final confirmation of Sheik as canon. And maybe we do flash forward, okay? Kind of similar to the Narrow 66 arc, like at the very, very end. We flash forward, you know, 3 years in the future. Again, super similar. That way, you get the time skip deadlines back, okay? You see a future with Shiki and Rebecca. And then that whole final chapter could be what everyone's doing in their lives. That's what I'm thinking. Now, something else that could happen is maybe you could get a reappearance of Mother too. Maybe. I'm not so sure. We gotta wait and see. We honestly just gotta wait and see with what happens with the penultimate chapter, and of course the final chapter dropping not next week, but the week after that. And my overall thoughts on this chapter in particular, again, because that ending is 50-50 with Pino, I'm not gonna give it the full pure perfection. I'll give it amazing plus. Based on the emotions, based on the feels, based on what we were given with again, conclusion with the chronophage, and just, the heart to heart Shiki and Rebecca had. Easily carry the chapter, for sure. And with that being said, you guys, like that's pretty much all I've got to say when it comes to this live stream discussion slash review for Eden Zero Chapter 291. Again, I still cannot believe next week is the penultimate chapter. And listen, as each day passes by, we're getting closer and closer to the end. And when we get to that last chapter, it's going to be such a surreal feeling. But with that being said, you guys, that's all I got to say. I'm Lucky G7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Eden Zero content. And I will catch you guys next time. Peace.